Today we'll be discussing the issue of the power plant in Brockton. The power plant is an installation where electric power is generated for distribution. The power plant in Brockton is a 350 megawatt natural gas electric generation facility proposed to be constructed on a vacant land in the industrial park on Oak Hill Way, according to BrocktonEnergy.com. Without water for cooling, developer Advanced Power cannot move ahead with its plans to build. For years, the company has been fighting with the communities of Brockton and West Bridgewater and local residents over the proposal. Two decisions by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court simultaneously upheld a state agency's decision to approve the plant, but also said that the developer cannot use Brockton's public water supply to cool the facility. In 2009, the court said the State Energy Facilities Sitting Board was right to approve the project, accepting the use of city wastewater rather than drinking water for the facility's cooling tower. That means if Advanced Power chooses to continue the project, it must reach an agreement with the city on wastewater use. During the construction period, it is expected that 300 new construction jobs and more than 90 other jobs will be created as a result of the construction of the project. During the 30-year operating period following construction, it is expected that 22 full-time positions will be created to operate the project, and more than 20 other new jobs are estimated to be created as a result of Brockton Power's operations. In addition to creating jobs, Brockton Power will directly pay the city of Brockton for wastewater and tax payments totaling millions of dollars annually. This money could benefit Brockton in any number of ways, including increasing the number of teachers in the Brockton school system or allowing the Brockton Police Department to hire more officers. The city of Brockton is facing a budget crisis, and Brockton Power would like to be a part of the solution by creating jobs and needed tax revenue. The project site is an ideal location for a natural gas generation facility, primarily because the site is zoned for an electric generating facility, and the site is optimally located near natural gas pipelines to bring the fuel to the facility and electric transmission lines to distribute the power to the electric system. Specifically, the SJC upheld rulings of the Massachusetts Energy Facilities Sitting Board, One of the most important and detailed approvals required to build a power plant in Massachusetts. The SJC affirmed Brockton Power's right to construct and operate a generating facility on the site, including the ability to use wastewater from the city's wastewater treatment facility. Massachusetts regulators have approved Brockton Power's plan to use 1.3 million gallons of wastewater from the city's wastewater treatment facility, located next to the project. Currently, the city discharges this wastewater into the Salisbury Plain River, but instead, the city would collect a sizable annual payment by selling the wastewater to the project. On the other side of the argument, opposers believe that the power plant causes pollution, health risk, and is not financially beneficial to Brockton. Brockton is one of only 5 sewage sludge incinerators in Massachusetts. Other stationary polluters in this area include the Thatcher Street landfill, the several trash transfer stations, and the Trojan Recycling Center. There are 503 hazardous waste sites in Brockton, 4 times more than the state average.
A decade-long fight to build a power plant in Brockton has come down to the Brockton Power Company suing the city and several officials, alleging they denied the company its civil and due process rights while trying to build the plant. They are suing for $68 million in a federal lawsuit seeking to force the city to provide it wastewater. There was little movement to this case until this past summer, when the state Supreme Judicial Court issued 2 rulings on the power plant. One upheld the plant's state permit, while the other denied the developer use of Brockton's public drinking water to build the plant. Advanced Power needs millions of gallons a day to cool the proposed power plant, or it can't open. But so far, the city has refused to sell. Brockton's 11-member city council is unanimous in its opposition. Brockton has spent $1.25 million fighting this case, and that cost will jump to more than $2 million if the federal case goes forward. Currently, the city of Brockton is facing financial struggles. The Brockton Fire Department is in need of a new ladder truck. The DPW and Brockton Police Department are requesting new vehicles. The school systems have undergone major budget cuts, and there is still a pending Aquaria desalination water plant investment. The $68 million lawsuit is posing a huge barrier for taking out any more loans. While the federal case asked the court to demand that Brockton sell the plant-treated wastewater, Stop the Power attorney Paul Glickman has said that the federal court can't force the city to sell. On the other side of the argument, Advanced Power attorney Shaban Mee states that Brockton can agree to sell the treated wastewater and earn millions in revenues, or the federal court can order it, and the city will pay for its unconstitutional, illegal, and discriminatory treatment of the project. This issue has stretched between 4 mayors, 5 city councils, and almost 10 years. The final decision will shape Brockton's geographic, political, and socio-economic landscapes for the coming generations. Power plant is a social injustice. Why?
I don't think it's a social injustice because a power plant has been in front of many boards and regulators, and it has passed and surpassed all regulations. Everything that you might hear about it, in terms of levels of whatever people may think goes into the air from the power plant when it will be built. That's all proven to be all below whatever requirements there are. That all falls below a certain level, and so it is safe for the environment.
Do you see any benefits from the power plant being built in Brockton? Why not?
Many benefits. Number one, the power plant it's a safe project. It's proven to be safe. Number two, it's clean. It runs on natural gas. For instance, when you have a barbecue in your yard, you probably use a gas grill. Well, this will be using that same type of gas for the, to power all the motors and to create energy in the power plant. So it's a safe project. It's clean. And number three, and one of the more important things, it's going to put many people back to work. Construction people and all types of labor tradesmen. And number four is the tax revenue. It's going to bring in millions of dollars a year to the city of Brockton that will go into City Hall and will go into the general revenue fund, and it's going to help keep everyone's taxes lower, which is what most people are concerned about, is the bottom line, the taxes your parents pay in their home and everything. And this will generate millions of dollars. And it's a great opportunity to have that revenue come into the city of Brockton. It's going to help with everything that revolves around taxes.
Do you believe that there are health risks associated with the power plant? What are the risks?
Well, I don't believe there are any health risks that will come from the power plant. There have been people that have said certain things may occur, but the power plant has, as I said in my opening statement, is that it's been in front of so many boards. It is so heavily regulated in what the power plant can put up in terms of emissions through the stack, that everything is cleaned. And what you got to remember is water goes up through the stack and up into the air, and it's, as I mentioned a moment ago, it's all clean and scrubbed prior to going up in the air, and it just goes up as a harmless vapor into the air.
Do you think the location of the power plant is an issue?
Well, for some people, a lot of people say not in my backyard, but the power plant, that piece of land down the south side of Brockton, was zoned specifically for heavy industry. In this power plant, the proposed project falls within that category. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it says it's proven to be safe, and all precautions have been put in place. And so, along with being a project that will help the city of Brockton, I believe it is in a good spot, and I believe that once it is built, it'll just become another building within the city of Brockton.
Do you think the power plant is a social injustice? Why?
Do I think it's a social injustice? Well, I think it's an environmental injustice. I think that when you have a corporation that wants to impose their will over the residents' rights, and when the residents may not have the means financially to defend themselves, then I think you can think about a social injustice. So yes, that's what I'd say.
Do you see any benefits from the power plant being built in Brockton? Why or why not?
I don't see any benefits by it. There may be the proponents that are for the power plant say that there are some financial benefits for the city and maybe the tax revenues. But I believe that any tax benefits that may come of it would be offset in the loss of the residents' property values. And when their property values decrease because of the effect of the power plant, then their taxes, the tax that the city would receive, would be basically a wash. So that leaves no financial benefit, and what's left is the pollution left behind by the power plant that will affect generations of Brocktonians in the future.
Do you believe that there are health risks associated with the power plant? What are the risks?
Well, interesting you asked that. When the power plant proposed their project, they used air quality monitoring in their proposal from air quality at Logan Airport in Boston, which is located on the ocean. And there was no data at that time for Brockton. But a year ago, Brockton installed, or the state installed, a air quality monitoring station down at the Gilmore Academy. And now we actually have data so that Brocktonians can look at this every day. You can go on the DEP website and you can actually see a printout. And what this actually shows is the year-to-date analysis of the air quality. And what it shows you is the red line shows you that that's the national average for air quality pollution for this material called PM 2.5. And the red line depicts the average that it should be below. And as you can see, 50% of this time this year, the pollution is above the average. So now that we have the data, I can say to you, in looking at the data, that the data from Brockton, when they came in and said there wasn't any pollution in Brockton, their analysis was wrong. Pollution, there is a high level of pollution in Brockton, and any pollution that the power plant adds to it will only worsen the effects that the residents feel from the pollution.
What environmental impacts might the power plant impose?
Well, obviously, when you look at what the EPA tells you, the harmful effects of some of those pollutants, it affects, people who have breathing disorders first, it affects children, and it affects the elderly. And the power plant would be located in very close proximity to the Davis School in a elderly housing complex, Campello High Rises. So those are the two age groups of residents that are affected most by pollution. And they're located right in the proximity of a power plant. Now, power plants, don't get me wrong, they have to exist. But in today's world, we have education on our side. So we have data to be able to make educated decisions as a population. 50 years ago when power plants, or 100 years ago when they were located, we didn't know the harmful effects that we do today. So locating a power plant in a residential area wouldn't necessarily be the smartest thing to do. My opinion is the reason they're doing it, everyone knows when you burn fossil fuel, you pollute the air. That's a fact. And what they're also going to be doing is using sewer-treated effluent for the cooling towers, which even adds more pollution to the environment. So in doing so, we know now that this stuff exists. So when locating a power plant, it might, for population of humans, it might be a best thing to put it in an area where it doesn't affect humans and residents. But this particular project is being located where it is in Brockton for one reason. It's because it's the most profitable place to put a power plant. So they're going to make more money to produce electricity, and they're going to actually affect the residents of Brockton. The water will save them 5 million gallons, $5 million a year minimum.
Okay.
So if you're building the plant in Braintree and you're building the plant in Brockton, the plant over the life of the plant, 25, 30 years, their economics are minimum of $5 million a year in savings over the other plant in Braintree.
Yep.
So when they go to sell electricity to the grid, they're at a huge advantage.
Money, yeah.
So they're not going to leave. They're always going to stay in Brockton. In other words, they could build a plant today. They have the permission from the state. They could go build it. But they want to use sewer water.
So that's what they're fighting for now.
That's what
than
Right.
for that.
They want the sewer water because it's the most profitable thing, and I think it's the thing that hasn't been looked at all from the city. Because I talked to the city leads and I asked them, when you're dealing with sewer water, you don't rely on the state because it's not part of the permit process. And when they name, well, there's a power plant right next to Children's Hospital. Yes, there is.
Alright, I saw that video. Yeah.
But that doesn't use sewer water in the process.
Okay.
Sewer water, think about this. When we talk about drinking water, it comes from a protected source. So your drinking water is a reservoir that's protected. And it's a known source. And they still treat it to enable us to drink it. The sewer water that they're talking about is what anybody puts down a toilet on any given day.
Yeah,
You
so-
don't know.
I know
The
what
sewer
you mean.
treatment plant doesn't know what it's gonna get. In other words, you've got hospitals, you don't know what's coming out of a hospital,
Yeah.
biohazards,
Exactly. Yeah.
you don't know what's being flushed down the drain. That's all goes to your sewer treatment plant. And right now, they treat it to a certain point and they discharge it. Now, the difference is, the power plant wants to divert 2 million gallons a day to their process and evaporate it as a vapor, just like a vaporizer in your home, how it gives off that mist. That's what will happen to the south side of the city. So the Davis School will actually experience that humidity. And it'll actually be, the kids that are at recess will be breathing that. So it's no different than you drinking that water out of your sink. Myself, the children at the Davis School, and everybody in that area will be forced to breathe that. Not by their own will, but they will have no other choice.
She goes to the Davis. That's
All of the bad things. So that's the point I have. As a safety thing that I strongly believe that they haven't even looked at this yet. But yet they're negotiating to try to give it to them. And I'm saying, look, if you want to compromise, like most things in America, you compromise. We've asked for the cleanest power plant you can do, and the cooling towers are a dirty process. So if they could go build this today, and most of the neighbors would say, okay, you've got your permits, you can build it. But the sewer water is something that the city has always wanted to reserve the right of refusal. They wrote an ordinance that requires a 2/3 vote, and they want, the power plant wants to eliminate that. They just want their cake and they want to eat it too.
I understand.
So when I say that the whole thing about the sewer treatment plant can't control what happens, what goes down there, they're going to process that. And when it goes through, the power plant's going to accept it. And then the power plant, there was a study just done in 2012 about California that uses sewer treated water for
Okay.
irrigation. And that how pharmaceuticals think about, so this is just new information, where pharmaceuticals, for whatever reason, people flush them down the toilet, they're actually showing up in the irrigation system and causing health effects, because they'll irrigate whatever they would, golf courses or whatever. So the study just in 2012 is showing that pharmaceutical drugs dissolve in water, they get through the treatment plants. Well, this would too. What effect will that, there's no one talking about what the effect that would
Well,
be.
we won't know until.
We won't know until 20 years
Yeah.
down the road when
30,
there's
yeah.
20, 30 years,
Yeah.
and it's too late.
Exactly.
That, you're talking about results of what happened. You're not being proactive and saying, what would happen.
Yeah.
So that's what they're fighting for. They're just fighting for profit.
Yeah.
I think the power plant is a social injustice. Why?
I do not think that the power plant is a social injustice. I think this because it would create more jobs, and it's 400 times less polluting than oil and 1,000 times less polluting than coal. So that would be good for the environment too.
See any benefits from the power plant being built in Brockton? Why or why not?
Yes.
You think it's beneficial?
Yeah.
Okay.
I pretty much just explained it in the first question.
Because it's less polluting than coal and oil?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that there are health risks associated with the power plant?
No, I don't think this because there was no evidence of anyone in the other places that got anything wrong with them. Got any?
So other power plants that are that use natural gas as fuel have not been proven to have any health risks?
Yeah.
Oh. Think that the financial benefits of the power plant outweigh the possible health risk and pollution?
Well, the health risks, there's no proven facts that there are actually health risks. So I think that if it creates more jobs, and then since it's a private owned company, then it'll pay taxes to the city, which can be good. Maybe we can get our sports back. and
Middle school sports.
yeah, Brockton's pollution is very bad and it's beyond the point of no return. So why not just build the power plant and get the financial help we desperately need for middle school sports for the Brockton Public Schools?
Do you think the power plant is a social injustice? Why?
Yes, I do believe the power plant is a social injustice because it is being built in a residential part of the city where there are elderly homes and the Davis School. I believe that is considered a social injustice.
Do you see any benefits from the power plant being built in Brockton? Why or why not?
Personally, in my opinion, I think the only people who are benefiting from the power plant being built in Brockton are the company people. We don't benefit from it because it pollutes our air, and the south side of Brockton is already very polluted with the wastewater treatment center and the landfill, and adding another pollutant would be very bad.
Do you believe there are health risks associated with the power plant? What are the risks and why do you believe it poses these threats?
Yes, I do believe there are health risks associated with the power plant. When the power plant cooling towers are cooled with the wastewater, since they're so hot, the water evaporates into the air and all the waste and particles that are in the water are released into the atmosphere. And so the children playing outside and the elderly people, anyone actually, just anyone around the power plant is going to breathe the particles and the waste matter.
What environmental impacts might the power plant impose?
It could impose many impacts because Brockton is very polluted because it is a city and we have a lot of hazardous materials here, and adding more to the problem would not solve anything. It would only make the pollution worse. Therefore, I believe that the power plant would not only pollute the earth, but it would pose many health risks and not be beneficial to anyone except the businessmen.
Do you think that the financial benefits of the power plant outweigh the possible health risks and pollution?
Yes, there are tax revenues, but all surrounding homes will lose value.
Judical. That was on the bloopers. Okay. Let's start over. No, I can just. Okay. Just start whatever, something judicial, and then go from there. Judicial court simultaneously. Judicial court simultaneously. Simultaneously. I cannot say that word for my life. Simultaneously.
Do you believe that there are health risks associated with the power plant? What are the risks and why do you believe it poses these threats?
Oh yeah, there's definitely health risks that are
Do you want me to just ask you again?
Because the site is zoned. Oh,
Zoned.
zoned? I thought it said zoned for a second, so then I said zoned. Okay.
Alright.
have a lot of hazard blah, blah, blah. We have a lot of
Wait, what else like that? Is it recording? Like it can't. Today we'll be discussing the controversy. Yeah. Wait, is it going? Yeah. Okay. Today we'll be discussing the controversy of the power plant in Brockton. The power plant is an installation where... Okay, it's okay if you laugh because I can edit that out, but... Oh my gosh, okay.
Associated with the power plant. What are the risks and why do you believe it puts these threats? Yes, I believe there are health risks associated. Just do it! Just shut up!
What environmental impacts might the power plant impose? Well, as I said before, it releases particles and toxins into the air when it's evaporated. So I think that is a... What was the question?
Okay, just stop.
What about like without?
Well, let me ask you a question. Okay.
That's creepy. Well, let me ask you a question.
Well, let me ask you a question. Wow.
I hate you.
Well, the question is... what are the financial benefits? Yes, we're being paid land tax.
Yes, we'll get tax revenues.
Yes, we'll get tax revenues, but is the health of our community worth more than that? Oh wait, I just restated the question.
Yeah. There are tax revenues, but the property values in the other